Internet and Mobile Association of India. The summit is supported by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, and Niti Aayog. I'm your host for the session, Manmeet from IMA. Welcome to the fireside chat on decoding SMB buying behavior to drive Atmanirbhar Bharat. We would like to thank our digital financial management partner, EaseBus, conversational messaging partner, Gupshup, session partner, GoQuick, gold partners, Manorama Online, Blink Digital, and Yellow.ai, and silver partner, ShareChat. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Sanjay Mehta, founder and partner 100x.vc, who will moderate today's discussion, and Nitin Jain, co-founder of Off Business and CEO O AgriFarm. I would request all the delegates to keep posting their questions in the chat box, and the panel will address a selected few at the end of the session. Over to you, Mr. Mehta.
Thank you for inviting for the session, and good morning to all of you. Uh, Small and medium business, SMBs as we call them, are backbone of Indian economy, and I mean it's called a 5 lakh crore opportunity or a problem for SMB business, right? And India needs innovative solution. So let me welcome Nitin Jain to give insights on the same. At 100x.vc, we call these businesses as small businesses with big ambitions. That's how the SMBs are, defined in our world. Right. So before we begin and get into the topic, let's hear the background and the story of the personal story of Nitin Jain of becoming an entrepreneur. How did he become an entrepreneur and how did he start the business? Let's hear from Nitin the
Yeah,
story about the off business and the current business which is running across, and why did he become an entrepreneur? Nitin.
thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Mehta. Thank you so much, IAMI, for organizing this wonderful digital summit. And thank you to all the viewers for joining. So, Mr. Mehta, my journey began. So, I am a graduate from IIT Delhi, did computer science engineering from there. Wanted to move into the world of finance because in 2007-8, finance was at the boom. And I know it crashed in 2008, but it was the best time to enter, according to me, because I got to know what to do, what not to do. Because in failures or in downturns, you actually understand the market extremely well. So I was very fortunate enough to be investment banker or in the world of finance during the 2008 crisis that engulfed the world. Spent 7 years trading credit derivatives for the European markets. Got a lot of insights from there. But after 7 years, I realized that I'm not just made to sit in front of a computer and trade from one place to the other. I'm made for slightly bigger things, and I'm a slightly restless person at heart as well. So I derive energy from others. So I wanted to do something of my own, and no better place than India. So than anywhere in the world, because India is a world of opportunities. There are many inefficiencies, and that actually derives opportunities, right? So India is in the global scheme of things, it is the next big thing, and we've been seeing this phenomena for the
So
last
Nitin, just
two
to take
years.
a step back, your family comes from an entrepreneurial background, or you are a first-time entrepreneur?
So my dad was in the hospitality division, so he has had entrepreneurial stints, but they don't have any entrepreneurial experience as such. So in 2015, 5 of us got together and said that we need to do something big in the B2B world, and that's a plunge that I took, and it was a blind plunge that seems to have been yielding some results. I'm very fortunate for that. The world is transforming and world is accepting that yes, there are disruptors that are needed, and we are moving into the world where innovation is the next is the only thing that will survive.
Great. Wh- how big is the SMB market? Why did it attract you, right? And who is called an SMB? How would you define an SMB in your parlance?
Yeah, so in 2015, we had two ways to go about things, right? So one was the B2C market and one was the B2B market. So B2C market was saturated at that point of time with the Flipkarts, Amazon, Snapdeals of the world, really taking the world by storm, and they were transforming the digital behavior of the consumer. So B2B was a very nascent market at that point of time, and no one was really doing some things for the SMEs. So SMEs were the ones being left behind. All the consumers, the internet phenomena, and the digital transformation for the consumers was taking place, but no one was doing anything for the SMEs. So we found a perfect opportunity. We found a perfect gap in and around the SME world. And for us, SME is anyone who has a constant business, let's say in and around 1 to 5 crores per annum, and basically going up to, let's say, 500 crores. That to us is an SME, right? So there are varied definitions. A government may define SME as maybe 50 to 200 crores, or 5 to 200 crores, or 1 to 200 crores. For us, the SME is that a person who's had a stable business, who knows, who's got his tentacles into what they want to do exactly, but they're not able to take it to the next level, right? So anyone from 1 crore turnover annually going up to 500 crores turnover annually, for us, he's an SME. And they basically want to have the same level playing field as, let's say, an ITC or a Reliance or a Tata or an Ambani or an Adani. So they are people who basically want that level playing field but don't have the resources to actually reach there. So we are basically helping those people out to make sure that they have a level playing field with big guns or the big boys or the big girls of India. And they basically should be the ones, because they are deriving the real uh, they are deriving the real GDP, right, for the economy. So about 50% or maybe even higher GDP is basically coming from the SMEs. It's not coming from the big boys. It's not coming from the big girls. It's coming from the SMEs of India. So we have a very firm belief at Off Business, right? So for us, India can never be built by 1 or 2 or 3 people. They have to be built by these backbones of SMEs, and there are multiple. So our motto is very simple: to propel the small and medium to huge. That's the motto that we abide by.
Understood. Great. On that note, let me move forward. What's your view? Are these SMB set to leverage technology? I mean, do they enjoy working on tech? Are they tech enabled, or they are handicapped with technology? I mean, how do you see these businesses?
Yeah, so we should be very, first of all, very grateful to Amazon and Flipkart for transforming the user behavior, including Zomato and Swiggy and so on and so forth. So using that as a platform, what has happened is that in the B2B world, um, people have started to embrace technology, but I think COVID has been an accelerator, right? So people, including SMEs, including small businesses, including large businesses, have realized that unless and until they embrace technology, unless and until they move at the pace that the world is trying to move, with Web3 coming into place and with all these blockchain technologies coming into place, they don't need to go to that level. But if they don't embrace the first 10% movement, they will be left far behind. So COVID has been an accelerator in that front in the SMEs, because SMEs typically wanted to do things their own way. So even after the digital transformation of the consumer, it was very difficult to get the SMEs, adopting technology, or adopting uh, the new age processes, so as to say, technical processes. So this COVID has been an accelerator. So that's actually been a boon for these SMEs from the business point of view, where they have started adopting a lot more technology. They know that yes, they cannot go and physically meet people. They cannot go and physically be around people all the time. They cannot be in the market. So they have to make use of technology a lot more.
Do they? I mean, that leads to, do they understand? What is cloud, or do they have that learning curve on using business apps, or it is more of this consumer where I'm just using for ordering, right? Or are they comfortable in terms of using this kind of business apps? What's your view?
Yeah, so for us, it's about taking baby steps. So obviously, we can't expect them to get to that level where they start uploading all the data on cloud or start using cloud on a day-to-day basis. But for us, it's about educating them. It's a slow process, and we also realize it. And we are very, very patient, right? We believe that this transformation, the full transformation, will come in another 5 to 10 years, and we don't want it to happen overnight. It can never happen overnight with the Indian SMEs, right? But the Indian SMEs also realize that if they don't start adopting these technologies, China will be going far ahead, because China is far ahead in terms of automation, in terms of technological use, and so on and so forth. But slowly but steadily, yes, everyone is adopting this digital transformation, and they are going down that route. The people who adopt it faster will be a notch ahead, or will be many notches ahead of the people who don't adopt it, right? So traditional businesses who refuse to adopt it in COVID have been left far behind. That's my personal view. I've spoken to many businesses, so we interact with about on a day-to-day basis, approximately 10 businesses on an average every single day. 10 different businesses we interact with on a personal level. So I have realized that people who are very okay with doing things as it was pre-COVID, or in and around the 2014-15 mark, so they will be left far behind, and they are being left behind, right? So as opposed to people who want to use new technologies and who are ready to experiment with new technologies. So we have a tech platform, right? So for ordering, for assisting them in terms of their entire process of finance, and as well as tenders, and so on and so forth, that they fulfill, and then they fill the government tenders. We have the entire technological platform. So we have seen people who have adopted this faster are moving far ahead in terms of growth, in terms of revenue, in terms of even margins.
Sure. So if I have to pick within India, India has stayed across, right? It is like multiple countries into one, right? And every state has a different behavior. Where do you see within India which states are leading in technology adoption? Where you see across your customer base majorly focus, or or which are the states which are lagging and still needs to evolve? Like what's your view on the trend which you see in India? Like which side, or which are those top two or three states which are doing really well, or two or three states which yet to penetrate the digital world, kind of in the SMB market?
Yeah, so more than the states, right? It's I would talk about, let's say, tier two, tier three, tier four towns. So obviously the tier one would be the fastest to adopt technology. Tier two would be the second fastest. Tier three would be the third fastest, and tier four would be much later. So that's how it goes. And this is the trend across India, right? So I won't single out any particular state, whether they're faster in terms of adopting technology or they're slower in terms of adopting technology. Obviously, the metro cities like Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and so on and so forth, they will be the ones who are going to be the forefront of adopting technology, and the SMEs based out here will be the forefront of actually using our technical applications, ordering online, whether it's a 50 lakh transaction, whether it's a 5 crore transaction, or whether it's fulfilling the tenders online. But those people who are in, let's say, tier 4 towns, or even in let's say very rural parts of Faridabad, for instance, SMEs over there, so they need to be handheld a little bit in terms of technological transformation, but they're getting there. So I would not say that some states are faster in terms of technological advancements compared to the others. I think it's more to do with metro cities and proximity to metro cities. I think that's where so Flipkart and Snapdeal have and Amazon has really helped, because those people are more adept at ordering online, so they realize the power of online.
Understood. In terms of the business segments, do you see more of services business, manufacturing, or trading business from an SMB opportunity? Kind of, where do you see an opportunity? Is it in more in manufacturing, services, or you see it across in trading?
Yeah, so trading as such has been the slowest in terms of adopting technology. I think manufacturers have realized that in order to make their processes more efficient, in order for them to run a very smooth factory, in order for them to not make losses, they need to be at the forefront. They need to manage everything very well, and one person cannot manage it. So it has to be driven by processes, systems. It has to be driven through technology. So that people have realized, and that people are basically very cognizant of. Now in terms of trading, so they have been slightly slow in terms of adoption, right? So they have been slightly slow in terms of coming online, because they somehow feel that they need to protect their business practices, and they need to protect their their traditional business practices. So I've seen a slow movement over there, but in terms of manufacturing, they are actually moving the fastest, according to me.
Understood. Great.
Services are ones to adopt technology. So I'm not going to be speaking about them, because we deal very less with services industry, but it's manufacturers and the traders that we deal with the most.
Understood. Now, let's get into a little deeper and understand across how does India buy today, and what problems you are trying to solve for an SMB buyer. to help them grow? Like, what does Off Business do for them? What is it like once, let's say, a manufacturer or an SMB gets onto your platform? What are the problems that it will solve?
Yeah, so there are three major problems, right? One is a SME needs to procure raw materials at a good price, right? At a cheap price with the quality, right? That's the first problem. The second problem is that it needs finance. Ultimately, when it buys the raw material, it needs money to buy the raw material, and because the anchor on the other end will pay in a certain number of days, maybe 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, maybe even 120 days in some instances. So the second problem is that of finance. The third problem is that SMEs, because of the limitation in resources, their capacity is always only 50 or 60% utilized. So they need those additional orders to fulfill the 40% capacity utilization. Because it's only a few people managing the show, then they're not able to spread their wings and get sales from different people or different parts of the country or different parts of the world. So that's the third problem that we are trying to solve. The first problem is procurement of raw materials, making sure that they are at level playing fields with the big guns, like an L&T or a Dilip Buildcon or an IRB in the infrastructure industry. So they would be the ones who would be procuring at the best possible rate. So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to get SMEs at that particular level so that the pricing is exactly the same for an L&T. It's exactly the same for a SME which is doing 10 crores or 20 crores of business, right? L&T is thousands of crores. So that's the first problem that we're trying to solve. So through aggregation and by providing them a very transparent platform. That's the first problem. The second problem is that of financing. So financing, no one, a traditional trader or a traditional distributor would not like to give longer terms of credit to the SME. And a SME cannot survive with shorter terms of credit because ultimately it has very limited capital. It has very limited assets to collateralize and take credit from the bank. So it needs those non-traditional ways of getting credit. So it goes to a distributor to take credit. So what we are trying to do is that we're trying to give longer payment terms on longer credit terms to these SMEs. So that's a second problem that we're trying to solve. A trader or a distributor, especially after COVID, have reduced their credit cycles. Earlier, if they were giving 30 days of credit, they've reduced it to 15 days of credit because they don't want their money to be under any kind of duress. The third problem that we're trying to solve is their finished goods, right? SME, let's say, manufactures operation tables. So where do they sell? They have only a few clientele, maybe like a Max or a Fortis. But what we do is that we open up other clientele for them, maybe across the globe, maybe across different parts of India. So that's a third problem that we're trying to solve. We get the orders for the SMEs, we do the financing for the entire supply chain for whatever working capital they need, and third is also help them procure raw material at the best possible rate. So these are the three major problems of the SMEs that we're trying to solve. So we are a full stack SME problem solver.
That's awesome. That's great value creation which you are doing for Indian SMEs. Where do you see, this SMB adopting, let's say, 2025? What more digital story will play out for SMBs, and in turn, what's the roadmap for Off Business to help SMBs going forward? Whatever you have done in past, we understood what problem you have solved, understood. Now, what's the future? How do you see SMB playing out the digital game?
Yeah. So one thing is that so ignoring the digital game to a side, because digital is someone who's going to accelerate the entire process, right? It's not going to be someone which is going to create orders for the SMEs. It's going to accelerate the process, whatever we are trying to do. Our goal is for SMEs, one, the first thing that we're solving right now is make sure that they utilize 100% of the capacity, right? Through whatever means, by giving them credit, by giving them raw materials at a cheaper rate, by getting orders for them. That's the first goal. The second goal for us is basically how do you get SMEs to expand and cater to a wider range of audience, right? So they have limited capital at the moment. So our aim next would be how do you get them from, let's say, if they're doing 10 crores of turnover, how do you get them to do 50 crores of turnover in a shorter period of time? So if an SME unassisted would take about 10 years to get from, let's say, 10 crores to 50 crores, our aim is how do you get them in, let's say, like next 2 or 3 years? How do you shorten that time frame of growth for the particular SME without having too much risk on the table and so on and so forth? So that's a second. So that's a long-term aim. How do you get these SMEs where they're operating right now to accelerate their growth? So that's the long-term game. And digital media will play a very, very important role for this particular acceleration. So those SMEs who are inclined towards, transforming the processes, systems, and thinking scalable, right? So most of these SMEs think very, 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 very traditional, or very, very orthodox. So they have a very orthodox way of thinking where everything is managed by the promoter. There are no props, processes, or systems in place as such. So we are trying to educate them to have processes, systems in place so that those processes, systems drive the SME rather than the promoter. So the promoter needs to have a long-term thinking about scaling up, about going the next level. So that's what we are assisting them with.
Understood. Now that takes me to the next question, what you mentioned across. So if you were and you are giving out credits to all this SMB, how do you assess the credit risk, and how do you see more and more SMBs being able to access credits, right? And you as a business, when you are lending, how are you assessing their credit risk?
Yes. Yeah, so that's a very good question. So let's look at the traditional way of assessing credit. A traditional way for a distributor or a trader to assess credit is going by relationship or going by the years of relationship, right? So that's called qualitative assessment. So you don't actually look at any kind of financial data, you don't look at anything, you just look at a little bit of transactional history, and you look at the relationship that you have with the particular SME. Whether they'll be able to pay money, or the ability or the willingness to pay money, or the ability to pay money, they assess that basis the relationship and basis the face value. Now, what the banks do is that they don't care about this face value. They go only by the amount of collateral that the SME is able to provide, and a projection of the cash flows, or what the business is doing. We combine the power of offline and the power of online. So we combine the qualitative analysis and the quantitative analysis, so to come up with an answer to give SMEs that particular credit line without collateral, right? So ultimately SMEs have a limited amount of collateral that they can use with the banks, and the traders obviously don't do any kind of don't take any kind of collateral, but they provide credit in a very traditional way by just on the face value. We combine both. We combine qualitative as well as quantitative analysis. So we have a very detailed study of the SME behavior through their bank statements, financial statements, and their past behavior. We look at CRISIL, CRILIC. We look at all kinds of reports. We look at their history, if they've defaulted in the past or not. Plus, we go by the network effect. So we speak to close to about 50 suppliers of each SME and understand the buying behavior, understand the payment behavior, and then using all this data, we come up with an answer of how much to lend, and at what price to lend, at what interest rate to lend. So we have a we rely on very, very heavy scientific methods. Plus, we do the traditional method as well. So we combine the power of both.
Great, awesome. I mean, just a mundane comment or note. Does this SMBs have any bargaining power, as such? Because they are always lower in the rung, right? So, do they have a bargaining power?
So what we are trying to do is create a very transparent platform for them where, yes, they will be buying at the same rates as an L&T or an ITC or an Adani or an Ambani, or anyone who is a multinational. So we are creating that transparent platform. We are basically propelling up to that particular level. See, ultimately, as soon as you start talking about credit from the distributors or from the traders, your bargaining power goes for a toss. If you need credit for something, you can't get both. You can't get your best possible price, and you can't get your best possible credit terms at the same time. What we are trying to do is get them both, get them the transparent platform that, yes, you will be given a credit at this particular rate. Now go and negotiate basis the cash power. So ultimately, why are these big guns able to get the best possible pricing? There are two reasons. One is that they buy they don't need credit, so they buy on cash basis. That's one. The second thing, they buy on volumes. So we are solving both these problems to have the SME really leverage and negotiate and come to level playing terms with these big guys. So the first thing that we're doing is that giving them volume because we are aggregating on their behalf. That's the first level playing field that we're bringing up. The second level playing field we're bringing up, we're removing the credit angle because we are giving credit. So we are not saying we're not telling them to go and negotiate on credit terms. We're going and telling them to negotiate on advanced terms because credit is being handled by us. So using these both tools or both these levers, we are able to get them at the same level playing field so that they're able to negotiate at the same level as the ITCs or the Reliances of the world.
Great. Would you agree in India, typically all these SMBs are very stretched due to stuck and delayed payments? Do you think that's a behavior in India which you see across with SMB? They are stuck with delayed payments from their customers.
So yes, again, it is because of the negotiating power, right? Because they have very limited clientele. They're not able to pick and choose who pays them well and who does not pay them well. It's been a traditional practice, right? So ultimately they don't have any negotiating power. So as soon as you have got 10 options, then you will get the negotiating power, right? So you will be able to discard, let's say, 2 clients who do not pay you well and work with those 8 clients. Right now, unfortunately, they've only had to work with those 2 clients, and if the 2 clients delay, they don't have anywhere else to go. So we are again, through the third problem that I was telling you. So we're trying to solve is we're trying to get them many more clientele on their platform so they have that negotiation power and they're able to say no to a particular buyer if they don't pay on time. So this is a problem that we're trying to solve, and this problem will only come with scale.
Understood. And a customer going on your or an SMB signing up on your platform, uh, you know, how much time it takes for them to start using full-fledged? What's an onboarding kind of? Does it require training? Does it require engagement like any other business app, or it's very quick? I mean, what's the experience typically?
Yeah, so experience with us is the following, that initially there is a little bit of handholding required through sales process, but we realized that over a period of time they get used to the sales process and they don't need a human interaction. So it takes a little bit of time. For some SMEs, it may take months. For some SMEs, it may take up to a year. For some SMEs, it may be as quick as the first transaction itself. So there are variety of SME behavior that we see across the chain. And what we've realized that there is a little bit of handholding required for majority of the SMEs because they're not adept to using all kinds of business apps, because these are large transaction sizes. What you have to realize is that these are 50 lakh transaction sizes. These are 1 crore transaction sizes. So for 50 lakhs or 1 crores, they don't have that kind of confidence on technology, which will come over a period of time. It will take another 5 years for that full transformation to come in.
Understood. Have you seen any security related challenges or any issues with phishing attacks or security challenges within SMBs happening more?
Not really, not something that comes to mind. No.
Oh, okay.
I think phishing challenges come to those who have got loads and loads of data, right? So I think people are more interested in that. So people will be more interested in going and having a phishing attack on these big major Paytms or PhonePays of the world. So they won't be interested in the SME phishing attacks and so on and so forth. So we haven't seen that problem come into play.
Understood. How is government playing a role as a catalyst in SME growth? Any key policies which you have seen in past couple of years, which government has, anything which you want to highlight in terms of government role?
Yes. So there are 2 major policies that have really helped. The one is Make in India. I think government has given a lot of subsidy to people from outside to come and make in India. So we are becoming an alternate to China. So earlier, all the manufacturing was happening in China. Probably 90-95% of manufacturing was happening in China. A portion of that, let's say 20-30% of the portion of that has come to India. So why has that come to India? Because people don't want to rely on only China. People have said that yes, because of the geopolitical tensions, because of over reliant on China, they have suffered in the past because of certain shortages coming in and goods not moving. So they want to have an alternate source. And what better than India? Because India can compete at that particular level, right? We may be slightly behind in terms of technology, but we can definitely compete at that particular level in terms of scale and so on and so forth. Especially with the new age companies coming in and helping out all these SMEs. So that's one. The second thing is Atmanirbhar Bharat. That's been an extremely good initiative by the government, and the reason I say that is because everything was being imported by China, from China into India, right? Even the firecrackers, or even any kind of colors in during Holi, everything was imported from China. So it was like India did not want to produce this in house, but now with the government policies coming in, more and more, all this production is being done in India, so value creation is being done in India. So these are the two most important policies I've seen really helping out the SMEs in India, because ultimately they are being given more orders. And COVID has been a boon of sorts for business, for SMEs in India. It's not been yes, for some people, unfortunately, businesses have shut down. But for some people who were able to ride this wave, it has become an accelerator of growth because of these two policies.
Sure. And what's your view on the production-led incentives or PLI schemes which has been announced?
See, they will take their own time to come into play, right? I mean, the SMEs cannot be reliant on all these schemes and so on and so forth. So, what is propelling is the fact that government is really pushing for things to be made in India, bought in India, and exported out of India. That's what is pushing. That's great. But if people start relying on subsidies from the government, and people start relying on the fact that yes, government is going to give them money to start, I think that's going to be something that people should not rely on, right? They should have the capability to start on their own. Government will help accelerate the growth. That's what government will do, but they should not rely on these subsidies, etc. Yes, government will do as much as possible to give the subsidies, but I think people should rely on the fact that they should make in India. They should get more and more clientele. They should not rely on one or two clients. I think that's the most important thing that they should be taking out.
From an education perspective, do you think those lean manufacturing, Six Sigma, or the way you need to have just-in-time inventory, all this education for manufacturing SMBs, is it how much it is necessary? Who is driving it? Uh, are you guys playing a role into it? Any thoughts around it?
Yes, I think it's extremely important. I think this is the part of the efficiency story that we're trying to create and educate the SMEs. So the good thing is that we interact, as I told you, we interact with multiple SMEs on a daily basis. We got a 5 lakh SME client base. So we understand the good practices of the SMEs and the bad practices of the SMEs, and we're trying to educate the people to come on level playing field, right? So we are playing a significant role. So we speak to SMEs, we tell them that this is the best practice that you should be following, because this is the best practice across the industry. So we become a knowledge bank, and we help them in their process of achieving efficiencies. Yes, as I said, some people are resistant. It'll take a little bit of time, because this is not overnight change that is going to happen. So this is going to take a little bit of time, but that's our mission. That's our goal, to make each of these SMEs as efficient as possible, so they are on level playing field.
Understood. From a off business perspective, you guys have started an offshoot which you are running now. What's the story behind it?
Yeah, so there are many initiatives, right? So ultimately, we are a very nimble organization. So we believe in innovation. We believe in new businesses. So we are the forefront of incubating new businesses within our business, right? So our business is a startup. So although it's 6.5 years old, but we still consider it to be a startup. So within this, we've incubated a variety of businesses. We started garments as a new business. We started agri as a new business, and we've started multiple financial products as a new business. So ultimately, we will be the forefront of innovation and disruption. We believe that if you stop disrupting and stop innovating and only focus on consolidation, you stop creating value, right? So when people were fearful during COVID, we pressed the accelerator in terms of growth. So we believe in that great saying, I think, by Warren Buffett, that when the markets are fearful, be greedy, and when the markets are greedy, be fearful, right? So the first part really is very attractive for us. When the markets are fearful, be greedy, right? So taking in the right context, we want to press the accelerator when the markets are a little fearful, because we know that that is the time to create value and efficiency.
Sure. So can you just highlight your part of the business, the new O-Farm, which you are
OAgri
doing,
Farm. Yeah,
O-Agri
OAgri
Farm.
Farm, we are trying to disrupt again the procurement processes of SMEs as well as MNCs from the farms. So we're trying for the non-perishable agri commodities, and we are also introducing a financing layer in the middle. So again, as we know, agricultural procurement has been very fragmented, right? Because ultimately it's from a lot of farmers, it's from a lot of people who are trying to supply. So it's not consolidated at all. So what we're trying to do is bring in some kind of standardization in terms of procurement, standardization in terms of quality, because agriculture produce being a natural, it's not a factory made thing, right? It's a very natural occurring or a natural process by which farms produce. So we are trying to bring in some standardization in terms of quality, in terms of supply, either for export markets or for domestic consumption, whether it's an SME, whether it's an MNC. So we've got clients like DMart and Reliance. We've got SME clients as well. So we're trying to bring in some kind of standardization for them. And we are trying to bridge that financing layer as well. That is a big deal in agricultural commodities.
Great. In terms of startups where I come from and I see across from a VC and a seed stage startups, we don't see manufacturing which is getting attracted. Do you see that young entrepreneurs are more only driven building tech companies and not building the manufacturing side of it? You don't see deals happening in manufacturing. And what's your view around it?
See, ultimately, yes, there may be a reason to actually invest in people who are technologically inclined, but you know, I think that's not the case. So we are a mix of a tech company and a very traditional way of thinking company, right? So we believe in business, right? We believe in generating profitability at every point of time. So we are a good combination between the two. But you're right that the VCs actually kind of prefer people who show a fast level of growth. But I think that mindset is changing as well, because people realize that if you just invest in the heavy tech companies, there'll be a lot of burn in the middle and there's a probability attached to success. So I think VCs are slowly but steadily realizing that there has to be a good mix between traditional and a tech, and keeping profitability in mind, right? So people are investing. So there are a lot of startups which has come in who are trying to revolutionize the way manufacturing is being done in India. So I think there is a significant mindset change in the last 2-3 years. Before that, it wasn't there, and that's become because many people are interested in the B2B sector.
So, would you claim that by, let's say, 2030, India would be a manufacturing hub? Right now, we are more of a
By
services hub.
2025, by 2025, I think it's going to be faster. I think it's going to be
Seriously?
the next 3 years. Yes, absolutely.
Why do you think
Everything is
so?
pointing towards that direction. Everything is pointing towards that direction. The kind of growth that we are seeing, the kind of GDP growth that we are seeing, the kind of orders these SMEs are able to grab, I think we are seeing an acceleration, absolute acceleration, and COVID has been one of the reasons this acceleration has come. People are wanting to move out of China as soon as possible, and the only alternative to China at the moment is India. Only
Great.
alternative, because a
That's a
lot of
great.
money flow has also come into India. A lot of foreign investment has FDI. There's a huge FDI investment into India. We are seeing liquidity left, right, and center, because India is going to be the biggest growth story. I mean, there were about 45 unicorns last year. Never before happened in the history of India. They were more than double the last highest. So it was the highest by a distance, right? So this year the expectation is going to be more than 80. So you're seeing the same level of growth as was in the US. And in terms of manufacturing, I think the growth is going to be probably slightly lower than China, but it's catching up very quickly.
Sure. So we have a question from audience, Nitin, for
Yes.
you. It says that with the whole third wave of COVID coming in, what are the mistakes that an SMB should avoid?
Uh, so SMEs should not try to over leverage themselves. That's one of the things that they should keep in check, right? And they should try and get multiple clients. They should not be reliant on one or two clients. If you're reliant on one or two clients, then you are basically increasing your dependency. That's something that they should avoid. Remove the dependency on one or two clients. Have a multiple client base. Diversify yourself in terms of client base.
Understood. If on the last note as a question, what's your view on this 3D manufacturing, and where do you see across that industry playing out?
Honestly, I don't have a particular view because I believe in the traditional manufacturing processes. Yes, 3D manufacturing may take its own time, but in India at the moment, we need to get traditional manufacturing off the ground first. I think that's most important for us. Then get these new practices into play. It may come into play at a later stage, but right now there's so much to do in the traditional manufacturing segment that this 3D is not going to create any kind of dent for the next 5-6 years. That's my view.
Yeah, on that note, let's wrap up the session. It was great talking to you, Nitin.
Same
And
here. Thank you so much.
with the hope that in 2025, India does become a manufacturing hub and we lead the world into the manufacturing, besides the services what we are doing today.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure, and I wish you all the best for off business, all the initiatives which you are helping in the SME business. Wish you all the good luck. And thank you, audience, for a patient listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mehta, for such an engaging and fresh discussion. Another thank you goes out to all our attendees for being here with us today and sharing your questions as well. Stay tuned for the next session and stay safe. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.